Hello, Rajesh. Very nice to meet with you, I would say. It's been a great pleasure and honor to meet with you. And after our experience with Stanford University College Radio for its different news, and music show, we are meeting again in the event of the launch of your new book, 6 Foot World. So it's been really a pleasure, and thanks for the great opportunity.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine, and it's really amazing that we get to do this once again. But right this moment, you will already see that because of the 6 Foot World, we are just doing it online now. During the Stanford days, we all will be together in a room.
At the studio, exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
So, dear audience, it's been a pleasure to talk to Rajesh Setty. I think our association goes at least 10 years ago. He has been a mentor, a guide, and also a coach for me personally in terms of my upliftment, right? So I would like to just to give a brief on intro on Rajesh, and then we'll dive into our conversation. It's not just going to be about 6 Foot World. It's also about knowing Rajesh as a person and his experience and his constant nature is to help people and bring the best out of them. In his own words, he always used to say that is bringing out the capacity in oneself. So a brief about Rajesh. Now I'm going to just share it with our audience group. Rajesh Setty is an entrepreneur, author, and teacher based in Silicon Valley. His latest startup is called Audvisor, AUDVISOR.com, which features several thousand original micro podcasts from world-class experts available at the push of a button. He has co-founded several other technology startups such as Mentor Cloud and Jiffle Now. Rajesh has written and publicized 16 books so far, with his first book published at the age of 13. Over the last few years, he has shared over 2,400 napkin sites. You can check details at napkinsites.com. And several of them have been featured on the first 2 volumes of Think Books, which is go to thinkbook.com. Rajesh is an award-winning teacher at the Founder Institute, where he has helped over 1,000 first-time entrepreneurs to bring their ideas to life. So it's a great pleasure and honor to welcome Rajesh Setty to our It's Different, you can say podcasting or a Zoom meet or chat. And amongst these tough times during COVID-19, we wish all our listeners and audience to stay safe, maintaining the social distance, and also time to think and enrich their capacity. So I'm sure the next few minutes you will enjoy this beautiful conversation with Rajesh Setty, coinciding with the 6 Foot World book launch. So Rajesh, first of all, thank you for giving me one of the earlier version of this book, draft version. And I absolutely felt very thrilled. To me, the short summary is, it is a professional Gita, I would say, because it has got life lessons to enrich the professional career, professional upliftment, and also how to be humane, help yourself and help others. So especially for a lot of people, Rajesh, the question is, oh my God, why me? I'm stuck and things like that. And you have written a beautiful book on getting unstuck. So that's you are like a visionary. You did that a couple of years ago, I think in 2018. So thank you for bringing out this professional Gita to us. And so could you just start with how it all started?
Very good, Sri. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. Every time I have had a conversation with you, I have enjoyed it. So even this conversation, I know that whenever people speak to me, I say entertainment is guaranteed, but if they listen carefully and if they work hard, there might be some enlightenment. But it depends on them. It's not dependent on me. So I keep that very clear. So what happened, because you know that I have a linguistic philosophy background, right? So I studied linguistic philosophy for over 7 years. So I'm very careful with the words I use, and I'm very observant of what words people use, right? So because when they choose a word, they bring a world around it. Like when they say something like, how is it going? So not bad is one way of saying, going great is another way of saying. In both times, it's not what they say, but what words they bring when they say those things. It becomes very important. It's affecting people every single time. They just don't know it. That the words they choose is affecting them and the people around them right from their body, but they just don't know it, right? So when I saw people, how they were describing what is happening with COVID-19, earlier I just ignored it because you know that I don't watch news. I have not read a newspaper. I have not watched news since 1997. And I'm still doing okay. So it means that it is not that required, so kind of thing. So because I get things a little bit delayed for me because I don't watch any of those things. So I started, as my friends started talking to me, they would say things like, this is like a depression, this is like a major recession, or this is like World War III or anything. They use all sorts of things. But any of those things that they used would not describe what exactly was happening because it's unprecedented. And they also use that word unprecedented, but not in the way that it should be used. Like what happens if they wrongly describe it, right? I'll tell you very simple. If you label a person as an acquaintance, you have one level of relationship. You label a person as a friend, you have a different level of relationship. You label a person as a best friend forever, it is a different kind of relationship. If you label a person as he's like family to me, it's a different kind of relationship. You label somebody as he is in my inner circle, there's a different kind of relationship. What was changed? It's just how you labeled it, isn't it? So if this person is the same, flesh and blood and everything is still the same, but you label gives the power or takes away the power. So I said, first problem is if they define it wrong, everything will be wrong. They'll think if you define it as the problem is 7 out of 10, there is one level of preparation you will do to get out of the problem. If they define it as the problem is 16 out of 10, then it's like major surgery required. So I was thinking the problem was being diluted because most problems, you don't see the bad side of it immediately. Like for example, I'll tell you, if you start eating junk food just because you love junk food, tomorrow morning nothing will happen. You'll be just fine. Over a period of time, suddenly things happen. That's why in The Sun Also Rises from Ernest Hemingway, right? There is a statement that people, one guy is asked, how did you go bankrupt? He says, gradually, then suddenly. So that gradually part is not not easy to see. So the term that I was just trying to say, I just can't say, you know what, this is badly labeled. COVID-19 is badly labeled. People will say that, what should we label it? Then I cannot create a problem and not shy away from solving it, isn't it? So I started looking for labels and what is the right way to describe it. That's how the journey began. And finally, when I was talking to my childhood classmate, his name is Ravi, he works at LinkedIn, and I was telling that this is what I'm facing. And in the conversation, it came to me, we should name this a black baby. Now, why did I choose black baby? It's because when 9/11 happened, Nicholas Nassim Taleb coined a word called black swan. So it's like, what does that mean? Like black swans don't exist, but when they do, when you see that one of them spotted, people will go and say, oh, exactly, they should exist now because this black swan possible. Like there's an unprecedented event. Once it happens, people will find logic to say it should have always happened. There was a possibility. Now, black baby, what is a baby? Baby is a group of swans. So when I say black baby, which means the way I'm describing it is as if more than 100 black swan event happens all across the world at once. Now, once you say this as the magnitude of the event, the person who is sitting and saying, oh, I am just bored to death here, I'll watch Netflix and all those things, suddenly they will wake up and say, oh my God, I need to prepare for this. There is a societal operating system upgrade or a downgrade or a reimagination that is happening as to how the society will operate. And you or anybody else or I cannot be sitting on the sidelines because we are part of the society. It will affect us. It may not affect us today, but it will affect us very, very soon. And that's when it became a book.
That's very, very nice. And I think you wrote it in a very short period of time, and it's very, very apt. And in fact, I'm more thrilled to review with you and clarify some of the questions or get some clarifications from you. So the scenarios that you mentioned here about like some of the concepts and the structural thinking, and you also recommend some approach. So generally when people read about, for example, help yourself first, right, before helping others. So that's a simple thing, but you have effectively mentioned it there.
Yeah. See, first of all, let's think about this. We are still, at the time of this recording, we are still during the COVID world. We are not got out of it, isn't it? Unless I am God, or I am clairvoyant, or like in the negative way, an astrologer, I cannot predict what exactly happens. But one thing all of us can predict, forget about me, you don't need to be a futurist. Everybody can predict that it's going to be a massive change, isn't it? That one, nobody has any question. And we also know that some people will say, when we get back to work, well, there is no getting back to work because the world that you left would be so much changed. There is no going back. It's like you leave, you are living in New York and you go for a business meeting. When you come back, New York has become something else.
Yeah, it's something like what you mentioned about it's not just the rule has changed,
Yes.
the game itself has changed. I like that example you gave in the book.
Yeah, it's even simple things like I was interviewing one of my friends in Germany was interviewing. I was giving him this example. What does this mean? Even in simple terms, even when the rule changes, forget about the game changing. When the rule changes, people have trouble adopting. Like we come from India, we'll drive on the left. We come here, say, why are they driving on the wrong side? And these people are thinking, American people are thinking, you guys are driving on the wrong side. The right
it's always
side
finding the other person is wrong all the time.
Exactly.
You're always right.
Exactly. Now you think about it, that's just a rule change. You see the amount of pain people go through, just the rule changing. And then now if the game has changed, the rules obviously will change, isn't it? So in this phenomenon, until in the history of the world, there was never a rupture in the interpersonal trust of people. Like nobody would suspect anything. They will trust by default. Now that has changed to suspect by default. Not because, people are saying, they intentionally want to harm you. Even a friend unintentionally can harm you, isn't it? So now the vaccine will come, everything will happen. But everybody knows that something like this happens, they have to be very careful. That's why I coined the term called minimum viable touch.
Yeah, I mean, I was the first time when I read, I said, I know about minimal viable product,
Yes.
right? And then the MVP, and then this one is like MVT. Then I read it carefully. I said, okay, minimal viable touch. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, which means people will think very carefully when a physical meeting is even required. And if it is required, like I almost feel that when I say this, I really want this to not to happen. Years ago, Thomas Friedman wrote a book called The World is Flat. And it was all about globalization, isn't it? The globalization, everybody is moving and all those things. But I think now the world will be really, really flat for the first time, not because of globalization, because of the minimum viable touch. Now think about what is the charm of Silicon Valley, right? Charm of Silicon Valley is the networks people have formed here, like the loosely coupled networks, the small clubs that people don't know of. They'll meet for poker or whatever it is, but informal networks that are there. And there is a number of events that happen here. Almost when the COVID thing was not there, you can just say, I want to go to some startup event. But guess what? You will find something here. So all those things are dead and gone. but the need for this information exchange has not gone, isn't it? What has happened? It has gone to some Zoom meetings, webinars, open houses on the web, office hours on the web. When that happens, Sri, what will happen? Now, they don't need to be physically here to take advantage of those open office hours, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
actually, in fact, the productivity, Rajesh, to my knowledge, is increased a lot. People are
yes,
working like 2 hours more than the normal day because of their, that there's no traffic, meaning you don't need to drive,
yes,
and you feel like you're working more. Actually, that's true.
yeah.
So you got to be effective. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, if you think about it, there was some annual lecture in Chicago Booth School of Business that was happening once a year. It's closed door only for the Booth alumni. And what happened now because of COVID? Anyway, nobody could go there. They opened it up to the entire public. Now, look at the physical distance limitation. It became a positive rather than a negative. So if that happens, how will any geography get an edge? It's really flat, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it opened up lots of opportunities. Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah,
now,
yeah.
if in just like anything in life, Sri, if you look for problems, you'll find a lot of problems. It's not like there are no problems because of this. So many things are happening. But if you look for possibilities, they're everywhere because the number of people who have already changed their business models is astounding.
Mm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
my thinking is that if we all today, if we know that we know this big change is going to happen, we cannot sit on the sidelines, but we can look at the possibilities and see how we can capitalize on it. We will come out really, really strong on the other side.
So I think this is a good segue to the one of the chapters that you mentioned about reinventing yourself, right? And this is not just like an incremental, thing that you do, like invention or innovation. It's a radical innovation. So could you touch on that? Because I like the way you mentioned about, because to my understanding, invention, they could happen to solve a problem, but innovation is something which takes the invention and try to apply the go-to-market strategy and how to commercialize, and also how to make it easier for a customer to generate the value for the customer. So that's all you put our minds, and you got to do some radical thinking towards and get this innovation done. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
See, the way I look at this, Sri, is like this. So we know that already world has changed in a big lockdown and everything, right? Suppose we both are not from this planet, and then suddenly they dropped us. We don't know anything about Earth. We just got dropped today. We look around the world. We don't have any background history, isn't it? What we will do, we'll look at how the world operates now, and then we'll adapt to it. Why the reinvention is required is because if we don't reinvent, we'll start looking at incremental change based on the previous past, how we were.
Mm-hmm.
But the world suddenly has a step function. Suddenly it has changed. The operating system 1.0 to 2.0, and all the features and functionalities have changed. And now we cannot say, but during 1.0 I was doing this. What new changes can I make? No, there is no new change. We just have to think this is a restart. I'm going to see in this world with all my intelligence, what can I bring to the world? Like, for example, if you are a travel agent, let's say, I hope none of us are travel agent because they must be really in distress. If you are a travel agent, there is no incremental innovation for them. First of all, San Francisco hotels in the last 30 days, typical occupancy would have been 95%. It was 95% occupancy. It was occupied 4%.
Oh, okay. So, it just came down to 4%. Oh my God. Okay.
Now you can imagine the stress on the industry, right? Now, if that is the case, look at what is happening to the travel agent.
Yeah.
It's a history. It's, first of all, very few people were using travel agents in the first place anyway. People say, I'll book myself Expedia and all those things. Now with this, do you even think he should think about incremental innovation or completely rethink what he will do?
Correct.
It is in his own best interest, her own best interest that he cannot, but I've always been doing this, but that's a different world. You might have been doing it, but it's gone.
Yeah.
So my thinking is that we have to take a fresh start and unlearn from our background and say, I was doing it because that was right for that world. I will do this because it is right for this world. So the problem is not the reinvention, but the need to keep on hanging on to the past. That is what is the real problem.
I see. Okay, so that means totally understood. And then when you're talking about the helping others versus which is again totally, it's a very humanistic approach and aspects that you cover a lot of it in the book. And can you touch on that about helping oneself first and then helping others? So I like some of your examples and the thinking that went behind that.
Definitely, Sri. See, basically, if you want to help someone, first you have to be in stable ground, isn't it? So that's why in the airplanes also they say, before you put on your mask first, oxygen mask, then you can help other people. Why? Because if you don't exist, there is no helping others, isn't it? So my rule of thumb is simple. If you want to help someone, make sure that it is in the area of your superpowers or the biggest strengths. Because when you do that, the incremental cost of helping somebody else is very, very low because it's your superpower, right? Suppose if somebody is good in negotiating, somebody says, I'm going to buy this car. Can you come and help me negotiate? If you're good at negotiating, it's a piece of cake for you. But if you're not good at negotiating, it's a nightmare for you. And because the person took you, it's a nightmare for him because you are not good at it. And then it's, rather than helping, it will start hurting people. So if you make up your mind and say, every day I'll keep growing, and then I'll increase my capacity to help others, automatically you created an internal system for yourself that you are growing your karma account because you are helping. But the rate at which your karma account balance is growing has nothing to do with the incremental cost you have because you're using your superpowers to help, isn't it? So the issue most people have is when people ask them for help, they don't stop and think, is this in my area of superpower? They'll first think, somebody asked me for help, I should help. Even if they're not qualified to do it.
I see.
They want to just not let down the person. On the other side, that person wishes that if you are not really good at it, please say, I don't know how to do it. That's what he would be expecting. But rather than that, you say, okay, he starts helping. Now you created an opportunity cost for that person because now you're helping. So he's not asking for somebody's help, but your help is bad. So it's really hurting him. Now he cannot tell you anything because you're not even asking money from him. So it's like a volunteer that cannot be fired kind of problem.
Yeah, true. In fact, just to touch on that, I just came out of the graduation from Harvard Business Analytics program. So some of our peers are joined together to form a team to see how we can help people who lost their jobs and people who are furloughed and things like that, especially in various industry segments. So one of the things is, right, you cannot do all the help by yourself. You need to partner. So this is the time where there are a lot of affiliations and partnerships that can form together. So you touched on the very right aspect, which is you may not be the right person to help, but you know someone who can. So maybe you can just point them in the right direction to get some help. So that's kind of what my key takeaway. And you absolutely said that don't waste anybody's time and put them on hold. They might be thinking that you're going to help them, and you just are a possibly a wrong choice in that case, for that matter. So I like the kind of a discipline that one has to have. So, and I know you recommended a lot of things in the book. I'm not giving away those. People have to read those to get those cheat sheet. You have a nice worksheet as to, okay, think this, think that, and then you give a step-by-step organized learning. Thank you, Rajesh.
Yeah. Other things, Sri, I have to tell you that people are not good at saying no. So that most people cannot do it. You ask them something, they will try their best to say something because they don't want to let down the person. But if you don't know how to say no, remember that you are hurting two people, especially if it is in a situation where you're not good at it. You are frustrated because you're definitely not good at it. And then you try to help and it's frustrating you further because if you're not good, you fail more often, right? And then the person who are supposedly trying to help, he is frustrated because he is not getting the help. Rather than that, why not people learn how to say no in a graceful fashion? Shall I share the process very simply, how to say no? So it will be like, I'll use an example.
Sure.
You say, suppose let's say we both meet and then you say, Rajesh, I want you to teach making some South Indian dish, something. Okay. So can you help me teach this? And I am horrible in the kitchen. So first thing I have to say is this a 5-step process. First thing I have to say is whatever anybody asks, we have to repeat it and then make sure that you are saying no for the right thing so that you are not confused with the communication mismatch should not happen. I should say, Sri, you want me to teach how to make that South Indian dish? First, you acknowledge. Then you know that if it is not the case, you will say, no, Rajesh, that's not what I was asking. Then we will be in trouble, right? The second step is there is no change in this. You have to say no. Not, but no, you have to say no. You have to say, Sri, you want me to teach how to cook Indian food, South Indian food? No. And then follow up with why you are saying no. You can simply say, because I suck in cooking. So it will go like this. Sri, do you want me to teach how to make the South Indian dish? No, because I suck at cooking. Now comes to the fourth person. In case you know somebody else who is really good cook and he loves to teach cooking, you can say like this. Sri, do you want me to teach how to cook South Indian food? No, because I suck at cooking. But my friend Nilesh, he loves to cook and he loves to teach how to cook. You got that so far, 4 steps. The 5th step is, there's also an opportunity to tell people for what topics they can come to you for help. So, because they may not know it. So it will be like this. Sri, do you want me to teach how to cook South Indian food? No, because I suck at cooking. But my friend Nilesh is really, really good. He might want to teach you. But if you ever want to discuss how to write a good book fast, you should reach out to me.
Very nice.
5 steps. You say, restate it, say the word no, give the answer, pick an alternative if any, teach them what is a better way to get your help.
Very nice, very nice. So that's a great advice and a good step-by-step approach for doing such things. Again, I would like to relate it to the thinking of that goes into the mind. So in the book that you also mentioned about the quality of thinking, and one has to really, you mentioned a couple of times, thinking time. I have my thinking time, I did this. Can you tell us about what is something called thinking time? I would like to have our audience also join that, hear this one.
In the last 20 years, or even before that, I've done a bunch of things that I could not have done if I didn't have a focused thinking times available. So I follow a process that I created called make and maintain 2 think lists. Like, what is a to-do list? List of things that you want to do, right? What is a to think list? List of things you want to think about. Now the process is very simple. Suppose you are talking about something and you say, hey Rajesh, have you thought about, have you checked that out? Or something, some new software, something you say. But at that particular moment, I don't want to start thinking about it because I want to be present to the conversation. So I use Evernote, and then I have a file called to think list. I just go, Sri, tell me what was that again? It's some ARVR stuff. Okay, I'll write there, ARVR stuff I want to think about. And I leave it there. Every week, I have 2 90-minute slots where I am away from the distraction machine, which is the computer, ultimate distraction machine. I'm away from it, and I have a pen and a paper, and I go through all the things that I said I will think about. Now, what happens in the initial days, it's a super scary because you don't know what to do. You just sit there with a piece of paper, and then you want to think about, like, what do I do? No, you don't do anything. You think. People are not used to it. In fact, I always tell people that if you were working in an office and you want to think, try this. You just leave the computer there and then sit like this and don't do anything. Just think. Immediately people will come and think something went wrong with you. They will say, Sri, is everything okay? I said, yeah, I'm just thinking. After 5 minutes, somebody else will say, everything is okay. You're not been doing anything. No, I am thinking. Very soon the boss will come and say, after 30 minutes, Sri, is everything okay? Because people are saying you're just sitting there. No, boss, I'm thinking. You cannot win that game because people are not used to seeing other people think. In fact, you have to almost go to a room and then start meditating or pretending to meditate, but actually think, because people cannot understand that thinking time is necessary and deep thinking helps. Why? Because in our whole education system, I don't think you went through a course on how to think. I didn't go to a course on how to think, but we both know that how we think will determine what actions we'll take. Ultimately, it will determine what destinations we will reach. Thinking is the precursor to action, but if you are never taught how to think deep, how can you get deep thoughts? Isn't it? So in the case of COVID, such a societal change that even if you are not taking the time, because it's your life for the rest of however long you live, if it is that important, why don't people take the time to think deep for their concerns, for the concerns of their family, concerns of their people in their network? If they don't think deep, reality will not change and give us a free pass saying, poor guy, he was very busy, he didn't think deep about it. I'll not be very harsh on him. Reality will not say it. It's an equal opportunity execution thing that you'll say, if you are prepared, you can have a celebration. If you are unprepared, it will be total frustration.
Yeah. That's very, very well said. Just wanted to remind our audience, we are talking to author, entrepreneur, executive coach, and public speaker, Rajesh Setty. And we are having a nice chat one-on-one on the occasion of his new book launch, 6 Foot World. So this is Sri Srinivasa on behalf of It's Different News, Views and Music, which is a show's name that I used to do at Stanford University a couple of years ago for 11 years. But now I'm just reviving that again with Rajesh to just do this as a podcasting. If you like it, we'd definitely love your comments. So Rajesh, I just wanted to take that thinking stuff to the next level. You mentioned about the storytelling in the book, because that's got something closely related to thinking. So storytelling, tell us about briefly on that storytelling aspects, especially during this time. One has to be prepared. Yeah.
100%. So the good news about storytelling is it can be learned. In fact, all kids learn that and they just forget it a little bit later, because the way I always tell people is, for you to become a better storyteller, a good storyteller, you have to first become a good story observer. You should notice and acknowledge stories that are being told. And then once you start becoming present to the stories you are being subjected to, you start noticing, things that you never noticed, right? So, like for example, you look at any item that is super expensive. So a car, which is very, very expensive car, or a watch, extremely expensive watch, or even a shirt that has some gold beadings or something, whatever it is. The utility value of that and a much, much lower price is the same. I mean, you will not find a different time because you are wearing a $200,000 watch. In fact, it will be faulty if it shows the different time. The $10 watch shows the same time. $200,000 watch shows the same time. Why would somebody buy a $200,000 watch? What's there? It's not for utility value. It's because the story they tell themselves based on the company that is featuring a story. Like for example, Patek Philippe is some luxury brand. They are not going to say, buy this watch so that you can get the accurate time up to seconds. No, because they know that it's commodity, right? They will say, it's not a watch. It's something you pass on from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So when I see that, I say, oh, that's like a jewelry that hand it off from one generation. Now I will never pay it, but somebody who is paying it, they will say, now I want this. Or the other story is, they look at this possession as a statement of their wealth.
Correct.
That's the story they think. If I'm wearing a Patek Philippe watch and I walk in, and people know that this Patek, he must have paid $100,000+. He must be rich. He must be powerful. So that's like a signaling system. But it has nothing to do with the features and benefits of the product. It is a story you told yourself that if I wear this, I have a societal standing. It's in line with where my wealth is or where my power is, kind of thing. So why I'm saying this is, you have to first observe this first. And then you have to learn how to use this for your context, right? It's like I was listening to a course from a guy called Pedro Adao. He was telling that all of us have limitations. Can you tell a story that will make your limitations look like your strengths?
Mm-hmm.
Example.
Like a job interview, right? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Like for example, you have been doing these radio shows for a long, long time, 11 years. But the very first radio show was completely new to you, right? Because there's so many things to think about. So if you want to invite somebody for the second radio show, you cannot say, I just done one. You will be the guinea pig. Can you come and be the thing? It will look odd. But somebody else who has done 100 radio shows, they always have an edge. But how will you use this Pedro's model and use what you have as a better? I'll give an example. You say, after the first show, you reach out to a guest and say, you know what, this is my second show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hungry to make my point. I just want to prove it to people. Because of my hunger, I'm way more prepared than other people. You should come and talk with me. You will enjoy it. Now, what did you do? Just use the lack of experience, because there was only one show, and reframed it as how much hunger you have to prove yourself. My hunger will give more benefit to you. Somebody else who has done 100 shows, I don't know whether they are that thorough, but I want to make a point here.
Okay. Yeah. No, good. Actually, Rajesh, that's another point you touched on, that what is the value for the other person to help you? See, we always have a habit, right? In the situation when you are thinking and do the storytelling, you have to make that story interesting for the other person to listen in entirety, and also somewhere get him involved so that listening to that story makes it interesting for him and say, there is something in it for me too, So that's kind of what I got when I read the various steps that you gave as to one has to prepare for this, not just for interview at these situations, but yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
And you always used to say that, right? What is
Yeah.
in it for the other person?
Correct. If you think about it, there are only two reasons people act. One is they want to take care of some concern that they have. Or while they are taking care of that concern, they see a breakdown and they want to address the breakdown. Nothing else, right? Even people say, why do people go to Facebook? What is the concern? Concern is they are bored. When they are bored, they want to do something. They go to Facebook. Neer Ayal says boredom is the intrinsic trigger that will make people do those kinds of things. So the more you get to the bottom of it, you will see that you become, and you study the art and science of storytelling, like Hero's Journey from Joseph Campbell. There is a 3-act story structure. There is a plot mountain. All of them, whenever you have time, you start studying it. The goal is to apply it immediately. So that's why in neuro-linguistic programming, there is a basic tenet. It says, the meaning of your communication is in its response. So you can come back from a meeting and say, I told an amazing story. And your wife asks, so what happened? Well, nothing. They will get back to me. If you actually close the deal, when your wife asks, what happened? I got $1 million deal. Your communication is only as valuable as the response that you will get. The more you understand it, the less you will start blaming other people.
That's true. And before I wanted to jump into the entrepreneurial stuff, I wanted to ask one other keyword before we go, because so far in the last 20 minutes or so, we are talking about the individual, personal enrichment, I would say, rather, that beautifully you are covered in the 6-Foot World book. The prison cell hopping. I love that. I think most of us, including myself, are constantly thinking, am I doing the right thing? I feel like also the book that you mentioned, you're getting stuck all the time because of your thinking or your habit or your behavioral pattern, your attitude and whatnot. Can you touch on that prison cell hopping, please? That was beautiful.
It is a fundamental sort of, I can quote unquote, disease that people are used to live with. Like there is still a guy called Jerry Roberts, and he's in Canada. And when I last heard him, it was in Malaysia when I was 1994. But I still remember this example he gave. And he says, imagine a street where there's a street dog and it's sitting in on the corner. And if you find that the dog is actually sitting on a nail, which means its back is hurting, but the dog does not want to get up and go. Jerry asks why. Because I know it's painful that I'm sitting on a nail, the dog is thinking, but I'm used to it. Let me live with the nail. Why I should take the trouble of getting out of it? Most of the time, many people, not to use that analogy, people are used to living in some pain because of the lack of discipline. And they know that the pain it involves to bring back the discipline is larger than living with the pain. Now, continue. Status quo maintaining is easier for them than breaking free from that status quo. So, in the prison cell hopping, what I am explaining is that there are n number of activities. Like so you had some conversation with a team member, it didn't go well. Now, that person does not even remember it. He has gone home, he is watching Netflix or something. But you keep rerunning why it didn't go well. He should not have done this. She should not have done this. Again and again and again. That's like living in a prison cell. Because it's not a real prison cell. You put some cell, you put yourself in the imaginary prison cell and you just think it's wrong. And then something else happens and then one day you say, I have an opportunity to go to another place. It also happens to be a prison cell. But in here, You are just thinking, complaining the government, complaining COVID-19, complaining the weather problem, complaining about the boss. You are rerunning all those things, but no productive work. But you came to the new environment, there is some curiosity because it's a new thing.
Yes.
For the first 1 or 2 days, I just escaped from that prison cell. Then you realize that you are in another prison cell. Just a phantom escape, but you're still there, but you feel that you changed. Then you keep hopping one after the other, all the time engaging yourself in things that are convenient for you, and there is no short-term action. You're just manufacturing excuses as to why you should not break free from the prison until you meet somewhere, a mentor or well-wisher or some father figure that you respect a lot, and they call you out on it and say, Sri, you are moving from one cell to another cell. But remember, they are all inside the prison. You are doing prison cell hopping. And at times like this, Sri, why I wrote that is, there is no chance you have time for prison cell hopping. That game you have to exit now. Because earlier you could get by because the rules were just incrementally changing. Here the game has changed.
Yes.
It cannot be, the biggest opportunity cost will be because you are jumping around like a monkey from one prison cell to another prison cell. So this kind of concept, once you know it, you cannot not know it. Because you'll suddenly, next time you're doing this prison cell hopping, you say, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Let me get a break. I have to get out of the prison, not from one prison cell to another prison cell.
I mean, it's ultimately, it's like my father always used to say, it's like a saying, a rolling stone gathers no moss kind of stuff, right? You're not solving the root cause of the problem. You are the problem, possibly. It's not the team that you're working with, the organization that you're working with, or the company that you're working with. You keep changing, and you get a temporary solace for that time being, but you're not solving the problem. So it's very good. And I know you gave a lot of examples in the book. And so I like this, so wanted to share. So thank you so much on that. So let's just move on to the value creation, then the innovation part of it that you touch from an entrepreneurial stuff. Because something, again, my fellow HBAPers, the Harvard Business Analytics program, they all are very familiar with the digital transformation the company has to go through. And in terms of the framework is you create value for the customer to make it easier. Even our best leader, Elon Musk, also used to say, keep it simple, make it easier for customers to interact with you. Your process and systems need to be very simple and not complex, and easier to engage and work with you. So as part of value creation, you need to focus on that. And then the capturing the value at the end of it. So what you get from an organization perspective is you just capture the value, like in a subscription fees or license fees or the revenue that constantly you get it. And then that's where the company grows. So you are an innovator. You need to take care of the value creation and value capture. And that's what you build a strong network to strengthen, so that more vendors, more partners, more suppliers, more customers. So one brings the other. In the situation of COVID-19, what are the do's and don'ts? At least a couple of things that comes to your mind. I know you mentioned it in the book as well, which is, for example, no insights left behind, something which I like. Understanding the concept, that's another thing which you mentioned. And also it's like, even as an executive coach, mentoring. So there are three things that comes to my mind. So I want to leave it to you to take which one is the first or second in the order. But
definitely. See, I told you about two think lists, and then that's like the crown jewel for me. If anybody wants to try it, they should try it, because there is nothing required. There is no new investment required. It's just a change in habit. Right? You are not having slotting thinking times. Now you have slot thinking times 2 times in a week, total of 3 hours. That's it in a week. Week has how many more hours we spend working? 3 hours. If it will increase the capability to do more when we are working, it's totally worth it. Why I gave no insights left behind? It's a play on words, no child left behind kind of thing. So you have no insight left behind. So in all these things, somebody is watching this video that we finally, when we put it out there, and then they got an aha moment. That is cool. But now I don't know what to do with it. So after some time, it becomes entertainment. That's it. It's the intellectual entertainment. You just collect things. So when you talk to people, you look cool, and you get sit on a high. You go and collect more things, tell people you look cool. That becomes an addiction. So my theory is any concept has the power that you give it in a particular context.
Mm-hmm.
If you read a book, unless the book was written only for you, just for Sri Srinivasa, I'm writing a book, it will be applicable only to him, then my business is not scalable. So I'll always abstract out things, not just me, any author, just layer of abstraction. So they know that the reader takes that concept and brings it to their context and benefit from it.
Mm.
Now, why is no insights left behind important? Is because you have to build your own internal muscles to create value for people. Isn't it? It does not happen automatically. So when you get an insight from a book, from a podcast, from a webinar, a friend shared it with you, the goal is, if you like this and if there is value, you may not have so many projects to apply to all the ideas that you get, but we have friends. They're always looking for ideas. And then you can start helping them by sending stuff. And as you do this, something good will happen to you, which is like if you want to play cricket, you need to practice. You cannot watch a video and play it, right? In the real life, you need practice. If you want to become good at chess, you need to practice. If you want to become a good swimmer, you need to practice. But if you want to become a good thinker, you still need to practice, isn't it? Now, when you go with the no insight left behind, how will you practice thinking and creation of value? You apply your thinking in a context, and either you give them, either it should lead to more revenues or less time to generate those revenues, and more balance because your head is very clear. And you become stronger because you start seeing patterns. When you get an insight, you look at, who can be helped with this? Oh, I think my friend Roger. You tell him, he applies it, and he gets a positive result. He may not pay you anything, but you now exercised your own value creation internal muscle. It gets activated because you're using it again and again and again. You become what I call a merchant of possibilities. That you come there, you're just giving new possibilities all the time. Does it make sense?
Totally. I think there's a lot of things, like I said in the beginning, in the 6 Foot World book, the framework, the structured approach, and then a lot of things to think about and action on. So it's not just the thinking alone, you have to put it to practice. Yes. So very well said that. I like your ROI calculator kind of matrix that you mentioned. So that is very good. So from an organization perspective, everybody has to rethink the way that their operating model. The operating model needs to, little bit support the change in the business model, which is again is everybody requires. And so I wanted to leave this discussion in a positive note. So one thing I wanted to quote your and plug in your napkin insights. I love your napkin insights, whatever that you mentioned, and of course the beautiful thinking. So the one I'm going to read it verbatim. The time you wasted wishing your past was different is the time you lost for planning a winning future. Nobody would have said that better. Thank you, Rajesh, for that. Thank you. It's so beautiful. Okay, so appreciate and good luck to the book. And it's really, thanks for taking time and in educating, coaching, guiding us as a true mentor and friend. And because when everybody is talking about the problems that we have, oh my God, and then spin stories about this, whether it's a true story or a fake story and things like that, you really set some time aside and to see, okay, guys, we know the situation. Here is what we are. So let's rethink on how we are going to operate to improve and help yourself first and help the other person, and to see when not just the rules change, but the game is also changing. So thank you so much on behalf of It's Different show. Thank you, Rajesh, to you and the team for success with the book, and appreciate your time.
I've so enjoyed it, Sri, as usual. It was very good. And as you know, there are 3 chapters available for free on 6foot.world. And then we're very busy putting together the remaining chapters so that the book comes out this month.
Okay. So good. So it's a goal-oriented in a short period of time, and good luck with that. So that concludes our the major segment of this interview. But I have a few more questions as a supplemental questions. Okay, for people who have tuned in to Rajesh's interview and I've not heard about him, I just wanted to ask a few personal questions about it so that they know you better. Okay, so Rajesh. What is the thing which people do not know about you? They know you as, and most of them, they know author, entrepreneur, executive coach, mentor, a humanist with great principles, ideology, power of positive thinking, etc. Is there anything that they do not know about you?
I'm sure there are a lot of things, Sri. But one thing that people may not know is I love to do experiments, and I'm very comfortable in failing. If the experiment fails, it will not affect me one bit because it was an experiment, right? What they may also not know is the last time I got angry, I don't remember it. It's been a very, very long time, because the way I look at it is everything is a game. So when the world makes its move in the form of someone or something, I just think that is the world's move. What is my move? Once you be in that mode, it's very difficult to get angry because just game, just make a move, and that's about it.
Okay, and when you have this advising people about the structured approach and structured thinking, the question here is where to start. Most of the people, they always think about. So I wanted to take from your life experience, like the pages from the book of Rajesh. What is that where you tried and failed, but you got hold of it? Because if everybody thinking, okay, suddenly, you start writing a book and you become famous. But so there is always an opportunity where you fail or you think that you failed, but you kind of came out of it. Are there any lessons that one or two you can share it with our audience, if you don't mind?
Oh, definitely, Sri. So I won't mind it at all. See, the number of times I have failed, there are people who have not even tried that many times, because I failed 160 times trying to pitch my book to a publisher. When I was 13 years old, between 10 and 13, I pitched 160 times, and I finally got the last person, at which time I almost had given up on it in terms of whether it happened or not, because I was thinking maybe everybody fails 300 times. I'm still halfway there, right? So the way I think about it, it's in my Smart But Stuck book. It's not in this book. There are 7 kinds of ways people get stuck. There is only one out of them. It's the right kind of getting stuck. And what that is when you are stuck while you are growing, when you are stuck while you are pushing the comfort zone, when you are stuck, you are trying to create value in the world and you fail. That's a good kind of getting stuck, because in the path of progress, you always get stuck, isn't it? Like you watch a kid trying to ride a bicycle for the first time. So it just tries that, and then sometimes the kid can get on the seat and then it falls down. Sometimes it moves 1 feet and it falls down. It's just fun to watch people. But the kid won't give up. He says, until I learn to ride it, I will not leave it. So in the whole game of moving forward is, as you learn to create value, first 1 or 2 times you get stuck. But that should not stop you from doing it, because when will we grow? We have to keep growing every single day. I told this in another interview. I met a person called Richard Viguerie.
Mm.
Have you heard of him?
No.
Richard Viguerie is 83-year-old, one of the finest marketers on this planet. I met him at the Titans conference near New York. And I had an opportunity to spend some time. I asked him, sir, what made you so good?
Mm.
You are really, really good. What is that? How did you get there? He said when he was 19 or 20, he said he wanted to become a world-class marketer. But he says, I don't know much. He made a decision then that for the rest of his life, Saturday, Sunday, anything, he will spend 2 hours studying marketing.
Mm-hmm.
From that age to now, continues to spend 2 hours every single day on marketing. Now, how can anybody beat this person in the game? Impossible, isn't it? He said by the time he was 6 months into this scheme, he himself felt he is far ahead of other people because most of them don't even invest 2 hours a week in the topic of their interest, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. So 2 more questions, okay? And you're so good at this art of the speaking and writing and entrepreneurial ventures, right? Multiple companies you have started, formed. So how do you manage your time? Because there's most of them, we got ideas. We don't know how to implement it. And the question here is, we are like constantly jumping from one to the other. And I always tell myself, I produce audiobooks and I narrate a story, I teach somewhere, or I just, just keep engage people in terms of being a volunteer association to read stories for the audience and people who are not privileged and challenged to read themselves. So we are just engaging them. I find it very hard to manage time between work, of course, work, family, and all these things. But you seem to be really got the hang of it. So what do you learn from you?
See, I know that I am a work in progress, which means I guarantee work. I leave the progress to God. I'm not saying this as a light-hearted way because I never worry about the outcome. It looks silly, but I cannot control the outcome, but I can control the input, isn't it?
It's like what in Gita, Lord
Yes.
Krishna said, right? Do not just think about start
Fruits
thinking
of
about the results of what your efforts are.
Yes.
Don't have any lot of attachments, but just do your thing.
Yes.
Do your
exactly.
thing, right?
In
That's what it
Gita,
says.
that if you just apply just this one alone, there will be so much peace of mind, right? Because just you do your job. You can never shy away from the job. Never get attached to the results. Half the problems are solved, isn't it? Second, I always think any idea that I get, what is the role that I should play that give the highest return for that project, but it's super fun for me. Where is that quadrant? Super fun for me, highest return for the project.
You're talking in terms of the investors. Investors look for where can I get my maximum return, like a home run in this investment. And of course, I understand there are some risks involved and things like that. And some of them, it could be short term or long term. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically, if you set yourself to be in the flow, then you never worry about time management. Because when you are in the flow, you are extremely fast. The whole book, 6-Foot World, it took me around 10 days to write it.
Oh my goodness.
So, but I have to be in the flow and then I have to get things done.
It's a focus. I think you're focused to get this done rather than starting multiple things and not finishing any of them, right? That's some of the psychological thing that everybody, at least most of us.
Yeah, and meanwhile, when I was writing this book, it's not like my other projects stopped. So it has to happen in parallel, isn't it? So the way to do it is to find a configuration. Like, for example, what are we talking about the book, about the audio book for this? We both are discussing how you can be the person who will help with the audio book. Now, should I say, Why Sri? I myself will try it
Mhm.
because I can ask Sri for all the video, audio equipment. He will tell me everything. Then I will try to do it myself. It won't work because I have an accent. And if half the people may not understand what they are listening. But you, for example, you love it, isn't it? So for you, it's like a fun project. You are not
Mm.
treating it as drudgery. You are not saying, oh my God, I have to read one audio book. It's painful. No, you're saying, oh, what is the audio book? Let me read it. Why would it be? It would be silly for me to try and do it when I have a passionate person like you who says, I want to do this.
Mm.
And second thing, you are very autonomous, which means I can give this to you. I don't have to worry about anything because
Mm.
you have high standards for quality. Your own standards will make it a good audiobook.
Mhm.
Not because I'm asking, see, you should tell you that it should be of high quality. If I say that, you will find it insulting. You will say,
Mhm.
why would I do it any other way, Raj?
Mm.
I will do it myself. Third thing, autonomous, competent, and empathetic. Yes, right? Empathetic means you know my audience because our relationship is over 10 years.
Mhm.
Who I want to reach, working professionals, entrepreneurs. When you read it, you will already know this is the kind of audience you are looking for. You have all the things. You are autonomous, you are competent, you are empathetic. My job is easy. That's how I get so many projects done because I surround myself with super smart people who are autonomous,
Mm.
competent, and empathetic.
So that's very good. Thank you so much for the compliments, though, and hope that's all true, I guess.
It is 100% true.
Final question. Thank you. Mentor. So who was your mentor, and any one or two learnings that you could share?
There are so many people that have helped me, but I'll pick one person now so that I can tell you how he changed the way I think about things. His name is Ofer Breyer, and he lives in Israel. And then one day, a few years ago, I've been working with him for years now. A few years ago, he said, hey, this Christmas holidays are coming. So I said, what will you do? Can you do something during the holidays so that we all will be proud of? I said, I don't know what exactly you have in mind. He said, well, you know how to write books.
Mm.
Why don't you write a book about how to write a book fast? I said, okay. And then he asked me, how many hours do you need for this? I said, maybe 120 hours. He said, let's take it as a challenge. Why don't we try to do it in 40 hours? I said, where is 120? Where is 40? I said, being like a little bit naughty, I said, I will do it, Ofer. And I thought, how will he know that it took only 40 hours?
Mhm.
In the end, I can do whatever I want. But he's super smart. He said, okay, the deal is on. It's 40 hours. But Rajesh, what if somebody does not believe that you did it in 40 hours? I said, what do you have in mind? We will video record every single word that you write. And you
Mhm.
keep sending me files so that I know what progress is being made. So that we can track it. It's only 40 hours. Now I am in a rock and a hard place. I'm in a spot because I, like a big guy, I said 40 hours. Now he probably knows people like me who are trying to escape with some slightly mischievous way. I start writing with video on for every single word. I don't want to look bad. I already made my reputation is at stake. What happens? The entire book gets completed in 11 hours, 19 minutes flat.
Wow, that's awesome.
30,000 words. Now that's the power of a mentor because he can bring out the best in you that you never thought you have it.
Mhm. So very nice story. And also, so if you are in doubt, if you need help, seek a mentor. So that's another lesson learned by reading this book, 6 Foot World. Thank you so much. And once again, can you just give us the website, please, Rajesh?
Yeah, it's we got a good domain. It's 6foot.world, WORLD, and that's where the 3 chapters are there. Very soon we'll get the actual book. The good news, Sri, is there are several companies that are already buying books to use them as a relationship building mechanism. So
Very
they
nice.
know that their clients need to read it. They might as well send something. And they just send the book, and then the salesperson can call them and say, hey, did you see the book? I said, yeah. The world is changing. We need to talk. We want to see how we can help you. That's how they will use it.
Exactly. It's very mutual. It's the power of the network effect at the end of the day,
Yes.
where you form some strong relationship and partnership. Like
Yes.
so, more books come in, and then more customers come in, more fans become start reading and things like that. So Rajesh, thank you so much for your time. And this is Sri Srinivasa. I'll be signing off from this show right now. And I definitely wanted to talk to you in our next episode on Advisor and GoThinkBook.com. So those are the 2 things that we will do it. And of course, the third one, Napkin Sites. So let's do that at a certain time. Stay safe and stay healthy, and appreciate all the support that you're providing to the community. Thank you, Rajesh.
It was a joy.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.